ever since I was a kid, I have loved being around horses.
That's really interesting, and that's such an interesting, perspective to look at.
It just feels amazing to see all these athletes. I cannot ride anymore. Like, I have no plan B. I'm not good at anything else.
Hi guys, it's your friendly neighborhood Wayne White behind the mic. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of TNL Now Outstanding. Today's guest is absolutely amazing. Sri Lankan born Swedish equestrian athlete Mathilda Karlsson. Mathilda, thank you so much for joining us today on TNL Outstanding.
Thank you for having me.
So Mathilda, to kick things off, let me ask you a question. You probably get this asked a lot. Where did your passion for the equestrian sports come from? Like, at what moment did you realize that this was something that you wanted to do with the rest of your life?
Ever since I was a kid, I have loved being around horses. It was clear for me from the very first beginning that I would probably spend all my life somehow with horses and with animals. But the love for the sports didn't develop until later, because I never thought that I would be an international show jumper. Like, it is a very expensive and limited sport. So I never thought that I would have a chance to be where I am today. So that kind of developed later. But it was clear from the beginning that horses will have a very big part of my life.
Did you by any way develop towards looking at it as an option as sports, or did you try dabble in other things as well before you picked equestrian sports?
Yeah, I kind of thought that I would be in a team supporting a big rider somehow, maybe being a groom, taking care of the horses.
Okay.
And not being the main person, not being the rider. But how the stories, the life sometimes just goes on. I ended up being the rider. And I mean, that is just amazing. All the opportunities that I have been given to do what I love all day, all week, all year around, to travel with my horses. So that was not planned. I thought that I would be like working with horses, maybe in the background, supporting someone else, and that changed.
That's absolutely amazing. It's so interesting to hear how you wanted to be in the background and be supportive of these animals and the sport, and not really think about how you would someday be in the spotlight. And now here you are, and that's absolutely amazing. It's very inspiring.
That is the key. I mean, to being successful is that the love for the horses is there first, and then the sport comes second. I mean, for sure, I wish I was more competitive in the one way, but I would, for me, the most important is not to win a class, is to have, and that makes me a less of a sportsman somehow, but that's just the way I am. I could never do the sport if my horses didn't come first.
That's really interesting, and that's such an interesting perspective to look at, because not a lot of people focus a lot on the fact that these horses, and they are as integral of a part for this sport as the jumpers themselves, as the riders, and as the support staff and the groomers and the trainers as well. So thank you so much for that insight. When it comes to your training schedule, what does a typical day of training look like for you, and how has it changed over the years?
Well, it have changed a lot, because now it's obviously much kind of easier. I mean, it's less hard work in that sense. When I started from the ground. I was mocking out boxes, sweeping, doing all this stuff to get extra riding lessons. There was early mornings, really cold winters in Sweden. You couldn't feel your toes or your feet because it was just terribly cold sometimes in the winter. And long days, just trying to pick up all the knowledge that I could, and I loved it. I wanted to be stable all the day. So it wasn't like now I was like, oh my God, But so it wasn't always this glamorous. But when you once reached all that, when you went to that process, now it's really nice. I'm a morning person. So I try to get up early and ride my horses early in the morning, because obviously with this life that we live, it's a lot of other things that needs to be done, a lot of management that needs to be done. So I need to try to ride all my horses in the morning, and then I have the afternoon. If I'm lucky, I can ride even more.
Right.
If it's busy, I need to do other stuff, like being in the office, or meet people, meet sponsors, and do other things that keeps the business rolling.
So it's a lot more than simply just doing the physical training and the activities necessary to keep up your
it is
those skills,
yes.
but it also there's quite a bit of management and technical work that goes into it as well.
Yeah, for sure. The riding part is very little now. Like, I wish I could ride more. I love riding. I would love to ride all day, but that is kind of a small part of it now, because I don't have that many horses on this high level. So I ride them, I can manage to ride them in the morning, like for 6 hours. I ride about 5-6 hours, and then the whole day is management, making plans, try to get new investors, try to have contact with the ones I have, to send videos so they will be a part of my team and feel included. So it's different things as well.
Right. You mentioned that you don't train with a lot of horses at this high level as you are in right now. Question: when it comes to the horses themselves, how are they picked when it comes to their training? Like, is it specific breeds, or is it more of a variety? And if so, at what age do they begin their training?
For sure, there are different breeds that is more like, it's more made for jumping than for other things. Like, I basically only have Holstein horses, which is a German breed that is definitely one of the best breeds for show jumping.
Right.
And but in the end, it's just about the character of the horse that decides if they're gonna be the best. Because I think all horses have the ability to jump, and maybe also jump big fences. But it's also like so much about it now. Now this sport, we travel a lot. They need to go on airplanes. It needs to be in arenas, really small or really big, with a lot of crowd, with cameras, with this and that, and with various fences. So they need to be having a temperament and love the sport just as much as we do, to keep up with this and wanted to do this. And I think you can have young quality horses that shows all the perspective and all the quality, but if they doesn't like the lifestyle that we live, they're not gonna make it.
It's really interesting to hear, because a lot of people wouldn't think that when it comes to the equestrian sports, that you would think about the personality and the emotional impact and the mental effects it would have on the horse itself. You would think of how would it affect the athlete, the rider, and that's something that even I wouldn't have thought about now, and that's a very interesting insight to have.
Yeah, because they are like 700-800 kilos, and I'm like 42 kilos. There's no way that I can force this horse to do anything that they don't want, especially when the fences get bigger, and they need to really want it. They need to want to do it good, and they want to support me just as much as I support them.
So it sounds like you have a very strong bond with the horses that you train with, and that's something that is really inspiring to hear.
To be on the top, you have to know your horses really well, because obviously they cannot speak to you. So you need to know this is your partner. This is like, I'm like maybe 30% and they are 70% of everything.
Right.
So I need to make sure that my horses feels great, that they're sound and all this, and they cannot speak to me. So I need to know them really well, how they react when they are in pain, or when they are not feeling great, or if they are afraid of something. So I can change my plan, or just try to make it as easy as possible.
So it sounds like you've throughout the years you've built an instinct of how you can communicate non-verbally with your horses.
Absolutely, and also every horse is different. Yes. So you need to spend a lot of time when you get a new horse. You need to spend a lot of time with them to understand ride a lot, to know their movements, and to also be a part of the daily thing in the stable, to know how they react to different things and what they like and what they doesn't like. But that's why I also say to all newcomers in the sports, try to be, if you really want to make it in the sport, you need to be hungry for knowledge. It's nothing you can just teach yourself. There's something that just comes to you by being around horses that no one can tell you, because every horse is different. So you need to have these hours and days and years in the stable to get that.
So speaking of your experience, what was it like competing at the Olympics and representing Sri Lanka?
It was amazing. I mean, the whole experience was insane, and it was overwhelming in one way, because it was so many impressions, and it is just, I didn't know all the fuss. I didn't understand all the fuss about the Olympics, because it was my first Olympics, my first major championship. So I didn't know what to expect at all. But now oh my God, it's such a extreme and exciting show that it's incredible. And then I had some issues which made it a little bit more difficult. I didn't get actually my spot back for the Olympics until 2 or 3 months before the Olympics. So that made the period of time where I could actually prepare. Most of the people already know 1.5 years before, because of the corona postponement and stuff like that, that they were qualified, and I lost my spot, and then I got it back to a legal discuss.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty interesting back and forth that you had to go through. I'm
telling you, if it isn't like overwhelming the way even just getting and qualifying for the Olympics, my road was definitely very exciting.
I mean, that sounds like a roller coaster in itself. A little bit more elaborative on that. Could you tell me, when it comes to what you expected the Olympics would be like, that experience, and what it actually was like? Was there anything different? Was it as you expected it to be?
No, it wasn't. It was much better.
Okay.
It was amazing. Yeah. Because I travel and I ride on the biggest shows in the world. So I'm in the equestrian world. I'm used to the biggest classes, the biggest shows. That's okay. But now you're surrounded with all the best athletes in the world. They are the best of the best. And you qualified, you belong there. Like, you actually is here for a reason, because you're good enough. And it just feels amazing to see all these athletes, they're so, and they're coming in there with the gold medals, and everyone is like, this atmosphere is it's great.
I mean, that sounds absolutely amazing.
And we came to personally, my achievement was to qualify, and I didn't personally think that I would have a chance for a medal. My goal was to get to the final, and I thought, I really also still today, I think that was and is a realistic goal that I should have and it could have. But then, obviously I was super disappointed in the outcome, because I did have way higher expectations of myself, and I know that we could do better. I didn't think, that I would go and win. No, I mean, that would be just unrealistic to think that this is my first major championship. I haven't done the World Championships or Asian Games or anything else. Go straight to the Olympic and win. That it wouldn't be realistic. But the experience that we gained, I was of course very sad and upset and disappointed of the outcome. But the experience that we gained, no one can take that away from me. It made us so much stronger, and it's another 3 years only until Paris, and I'm definitely going to try to qualify for 2024 Paris Olympics, and I will do so many things different, and I will have all this background to back me up of the knowledge that I got from being a little bit unsuccessful in Tokyo.
No, but then again, like you said, if you want to be successful in this sport, you have to always want to learn more, always have that hunger for knowledge, and that's amazing. Speaking a little bit about your Olympic experience, what led you to want to represent Sri Lanka?
Well, I was already in the Swedish team, and I was fighting for the Swedish flag, and I was doing pretty well, and many people said, yeah, but you obviously I look different, so everyone know that I'm
yes.
not born or like in Sweden, that I'm not 100% Swedish. So everyone said, yeah, but if you're born there, for sure you can have a dual citizenship and you can ride for Sri Lanka. It will open up a lot of doors. Like it would be easier not to have the concurrence from Sweden, which is a very strong equestrian team, and you can go to better shows. You can maybe go to championships and stuff. Because it's not about being good enough, but it's also to manage yourself in a team against a lot of good riders. I mean, I was already in that team, but it's different when you can make your own plan. Never really felt like I wanted to do that because I felt very Swedish and all this. But then I did visit Sri Lanka for the first time since I was born, and that was 2017. And I just went for vacation, so there was like nothing in the background. And I was just amazed by the people that I met and the beauty of this country. It just kind of hit me, and I was like, wow, I was born here. This is my country. And it felt very natural for me to do the change afterwards. Like it was not a doubt at all that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to represent, because it is a small country, and in Europe, I don't think a lot of people knows a lot about Sri Lanka, and it's such a shame because it's such a beautiful, it's one of the, I would say it's the beautiful island in the world. And all the people that I have met have been so incredibly friendly, warm, welcoming. All the support that I have got through social media have been so overwhelming and so warm. So I did do the change, and I never regret it later after. Not once.
That's absolutely wonderful to hear, and thank you so much for that, because you don't see that a lot. You don't see that a lot, and that's absolutely amazing to hear. You mentioned that the equestrian sports is quite expensive to get involved with, and of course continue as well. This also kind of brings about a little bit of a barrier when it comes to a country like us, like in Sri Lanka. And do you see a roadmap for development that can help the sport develop and kind of become a bit more accessible in our country?
Yeah, I think it's a start to maybe get more people just involved, going to the riding schools. And then the sport, but the riding will develop so that people will get to know more and more about the riding and then have better skills. So then that will be the first to maybe, hopefully I could help with a little bit to just get a little bit more attention for the sport, to that young people will see, oh my God, there is a sport we didn't even know about, and it's an Olympic sport that brings the passion with. And then when the skills are there, to maybe start small competitions, because sometimes you don't know if the competition world is really for you. You need to have the nerves and this and that to develop that. And I really hope that one day Sri Lanka will maybe have a team, maybe not for the Olympics, but at least like some riders riding Nations Cup. Maybe, I know it's decades, it would take a long time, but we need to start somewhere. Because I can tell that I have got so many responses on social media of young people want to become an equestrian. They didn't know about the sport before, but they've seen me, they've seen Chopin, and they want to have a horse like him, and they want to become a show jumper. And maybe if it's, for sure they need to go abroad first to see how the sport is in Europe or somewhere else, like Australia or somewhere else in the world where the sport is a little bigger. And maybe take that knowledge with them and help to support something in Sri Lanka.
You mentioned earlier your experience at the Olympic Village. What would you say is your best non-competition memory there, and what was it like, especially during with COVID restrictions in the atmosphere?
Well, because it was my first Olympic, I didn't know the difference from the other Olympics. But I know a lot of people said, because I couldn't be a part of the opening ceremony, which normally was like the highlight of the Olympics. And I couldn't be a part of it. And it was obviously very different because they needed to have all the COVID restrictions. So for me, I didn't, we are already for 1.5 years, we have lived with COVID. So it was normal for me to wear a mask and have the social distancing and stuff. So that didn't feel like a big issue because I know a lot of other athletes that have been taking part of different Olympics said that this didn't feel like Olympics, but for me, it definitely did. I mean, I didn't feel like there was any issues.
Right. What would you say are the elements that kind of give the equestrian athletes who place and win medals, what's the edge that they have over? Is it simply the horse? Is it the training that the athletes have, or is it more of a combination of both?
It's definitely a combination of both, but I think the management, there's a lot of good riders, a lot of good riders that know how to ride really well. But I think what is the difference is the details, to be like obsessed with everything needs to be perfect. And I think the management to keep your horse sound and happy and do a good plan, that is the key. And that's what just makes some riders better than others, because a lot of people have good horses. And it's not, I would say the horses are the athletes, because they are the ones that get they have the physio, the vet, the blacksmith, and we don't really have that as a rider. And they get a really intense training plan and show plan, and we try to make the best to keep them they are poor muscles. Obviously us riders I try, and the best riders, they are very fit. They try to work out, but we are not when you walk around in the Olympics village, you don't look as sporty as the rest of them, the other athletes. But so I think it's just a combination of having a really good horse. Obviously, you need so good horses to keep, and many. That's the thing. We have shows every week, and we cannot always go with the same one. So you need to have a bunch of good horses, and that is what the key is, to keep your horses sound, that they can compete as much as possible and stay sound for a long period of time. But also to have, I think, the personality as a person to bring people into the sport to support you, because it is a very expensive sport, and that is an issue that we have that should be changed. But it's just these horses, I mean, they need so much caretaking that is just expensive, they need so much. Yes. And I have been always very lucky to have people supporting me. And I think if you see the best riders in the world, they have amazing sponsors, but they also try to give something back. And I think that's the person you need to be a social person, maybe.
This is a question that I'm not sure how you would answer, but if you weren't a show jumper, what would you want to be?
Oh, I got asked that so many times that I should know a good answer to that, but I don't know. I mean, I started when I was finished with school. I started as a groom, not thinking that was what I was gonna do. I don't know. I mean, when I would something with animals for sure, maybe an animal caretaker or something like that.
Okay. So I mean, that's actually interesting, because a lot of people, they do usually have an alternate plan that they would have, but it just goes to show how dedicated you are to your craft and to this sport.
I often think if something happens to me, what should I do if I cannot ride anymore? I have no plan B. I'm not good at anything else. I don't know how to do anything else. So then I'm screwed.
But yeah, I mean, that's actually amazing to hear. One final question from you,
Yeah.
Mathilda. What advice would you give to someone who would want to get into equestrian sports? Like, how would they approach the sport? Where should they start, or where can they find the information that they need to kind of understand what they can do better?
I know that Sri Lanka have, like in Colombo, they have a very good riding school that teaches very well, and they are now, I would say they are my friends because they help me a lot. And I've been to visit there a couple of times. I was there also now when I was in Sri Lanka. And I know their love and their passion for horses is insane. And that they teach us very well. They take very good care of the horses. So that is a start to go to the riding schools. Try to spend, even if it's not riding, I know the riding lessons might be expensive, but to just be around horses, watch everyone else riding, listen to what the teacher says to other people. And when it's your turn to have your riding lessons, you will pick up on other things that you've seen or done and take that in. So, it's not just about the hours in the saddle. It's about being around the horses, being very into it, and try to pick up all the things that you can.
Right.
And also what I think is very important, don't be afraid to ask for help, like for other people to bring to support you. If you are really passionate about what you want to do, you will find people to believes in you, like I did, and they will help you along the way. And I know it is a very expensive sport, and it's it is difficult, but I mean, everything I'm telling you, everything is possible. And it's just about trying to find right people, being on it, and believe in yourself. Other people will believe in you too, and everything is possible.
Thank you so much, Mathilda. Thank you so much for those amazing words. Because I learned a lot today. I hope
That's good.
I hope you guys learned a lot as well. Thank you so much for being a part of this episode of TNL Now Outstanding. So, thank you so much, Mathilda, for joining us. I wish you all the very best for Paris and for all the other competitions that you'll be taking part in.
Thank you.
And that was Mathilda Karlsson. What an outstanding individual and what an outstanding experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this episode of TNL Now Outstanding. We'll catch you on the next one.